All right. Hello, hello, my beauties and bees. Thank you for sticking around. And hello, hello, and welcome to This Week in Weird. I've retitled this segment so many times, but I think Week in Weird is what I'm going to stick with because I don't know if I'm going to keep it on Wednesday. So Weird Wednesdays is not necessarily going to hold up. And then we have the I weird with it thing, but I don't like using somebody else's catchphrase as my show name. I think it's I'd rather have come up with my own. So, but just call it Week in Weird, which fits my WIW logo I have for it. So that's what's going to be called for now on. So, we cover a lot of weird stuff here, weird claims, religious. We cover things like. Recently we covered the Mormon lost city of Zarahemla. We talk about Tartaria. We talk about the flat earth and the ice wall. We talk about time travel here in Week in Weird. We talk about using psychic powers we've talked a lot about psychic powers and mentalist abilities, and I try them all. When I find like magecraft and stuff, I try to do it. Like you all remember the pyrokinesis video. I cut the candle out and I did the pyrokinesis with the person doing it and was able to get similar results. So voila, I'm willing to do the test. I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to bend the spoon. Today, we're talking about spiritualism, which was a movement that began in the 19th century. We're talking about sort of its early roots. It did, it was bolstered by people like John Dee and Edward Kelly, who we talked about previously when we did on a previous episode where we talked about the Enochian language and how John Dee did that whole grift just in order to fuck Edward Kelly's wife, which they did, right? That's what it was all about. So the whole angelic language and the Golden Dawn and all the spin-off religion stuff, Aleister Crowley, all that is based on this grifter's grift to try to screw his friend's wife. So you got to keep that stuff in mind. But the starting point of the spiritualist movement is often considered to be the Fox sisters. And while the Fox sisters are sometimes mostly considered long debunked, there's people who still proponents of them being authentic. One of those people we're going to look at for real quick, we're not going to do the whole show about this, but we're going to look at real quick, is actor, comedian, writer, producer, director, and musician Dan Aykroyd. I like Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd invented Ghostbusters, and his belief in the paranormal and supernatural is hugely influential to that franchise specifically, and he still works on it to this day when they create new Ghostbusters media. But he has his own kind of take on the Fox sisters.
And they would channel entities from the other side. Have you heard of the Fox sisters and the whole Lilydale thing, the whole mediumship of the concept that, that life lives beyond what we have here? Do you know who John Edwards is, the psychic on television?
Psychic, yeah. Isn't he full of shit?
No, he's
Didn't
very
he get busted?
No, what happened?
I think he got busted with an earpiece.
Well,
Didn't he? See if John Edwards, the psychic, got busted.
He had some maybe, sometimes what happens is they lose their powers and they aren't able to.
Or they're full of shit the entire time. They just get slippery.
Or they're full of shit the entire time. Good call, Joe. Sometimes Joe's on point, but most of the time Joe's just a blubbering idiot.
On Edwards, though, I watched the show. I kind of believed him, but
I'm not sure if he was the one that got busted. Mm-hmm. One of those psychics got busted.
Yeah. So
I'd like to sit you across from Penn Jillette.
Of course. No,
you talk to him?
Well, he's an expert debunker of all this stuff. Yeah,
super skeptical.
I would love to. I'd love to have Penn Jillette tell me what he thinks of the Fox sisters. Why they went around the world with a spirit that performed with them. rapping.
What happened?
Well,
Spirit
Oh,
rap.
he doesn't know about the Fox sisters? Oh, Joe, yeah.
A spirit wrapped, yeah.
What kind of rapping?
R-A-P, not
Like rapping. Yeah, like,
well,
not like. Yeah. Oh, I thought you
loud,
meant like music.
reverberant rapping. Yeah.
Oh.
No, I'd love to. So
Spirit rapper.
mediumship. That's a very
Ghostface
big
Killer.
thing. Insane Clown Posse, or Slipknot. There we go. But
Slipknot doesn't rap. Well, I mean, I guess he kind of does. He's more like, it's more like, I don't know, it's new metal. I like Slipknot, but Insane Clown Posse does rap.
I believe that the consciousness can survive after death. There's a school called Arthur Findlay College in England, and you can go there and train to be a medium. Why you'd want to, I don't know. It's very exhausting. Can you imagine shutting down your whole system, going into a trance, reaching the other side, having that entity come through the other side, use your body, use your fluids, use everything, and then abandon you?
Why is it using my fluids, Dan? I think I can invite an entity into my body without giving it access to my fluids. How far is Atlantis from Gondor? It's between Gondor and Narnia. Well, beyond, just on the other side of Mordor. So Mordor, on the other side of Mordor is the land of, well, it depends on which direction you go. If you go in east, east, it's going to be like Rune. If you go south, it's going to be Herod. And if you go southeast, it's going to be Kahan. North is more Rune, or the battle plains and stuff too. Anyway, now you got me talking about Lord of the Rings stuff. Hello. Dan believes in all sorts of paranormal stuff. Yeah, I know. Dan's going to be using his fluids to tell us about it.
After, and then just go, it's exhausting. But my family researched mediumship, and I wrote Ghostbusters based upon, it's just our family interest on the fact.
So, in fairness, I only invite entities into my body to use my fluids, says Ember. That's hot.
The Fox sisters.
So you're all
the Fox
in.
sisters. You should get them up. There's a picture of them. Fox sisters. In 1848, they were lying in bed in their new house near Hydesville, New York, and all of a sudden, this kind of rapping started, terrifying them. They thought it was confined just to that house in Hydesville, but they managed to take it around. When they went to Rochester, it happened in houses. When they went to a theater, it happened in front of 300-400 people. And eventually, they toured the world with this.
Are hobbit feet bigger or smaller than human feet? I think they're bigger. Like, I have pretty big human feet.
They called it the peddler, and he was of someone who was killed and murdered and buried in the house in the basement. There
Is
they
John
are.
Edwards a hoser?
Peter Popoff?
There they are.
John Edwards.
I looked him up. It didn't come up
There
necessarily
they
that
are.
he was.
They were all, and they went around the world.
Dan's like, shut the fuck up. Stop trying to debunk me. I'm trying to tell you stories. Dan's like more of a storyteller than like someone who's going to convince you. And it's probably also a lot because I don't like Joe Rogan, and I'm like, it's funny because usually I'm like, why aren't you fact checking this when he has some idiot chat on there talking nonsense? And now I'm like, why are you fact checking Dan? Just let him tell his story. He's telling a story. I don't know. I'm sure Dan believes it, but
Tipping tables, and
Look at them.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a drawing. They're not even
Spiritualist-
real people. They never existed.
No, they did. They were, and they were very well scrutinized. Maggie, in the end of her life, said, "No, we were producing these reverberant raps."
Why do they have a head? What is that? Is that them?
What
the hell is that?
I don't know what
Boy.
that's at. That's out of my realm.
There's something about mean-faced ladies from like the 1800s that scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, there's the cottage. There's
It
their
was
little
just such
cottage.
a hard time to be alive.
That's the cottage that it occurred in. And, they said it was the ghost of the peddler that was murdered in the basement. And then they looked down, they did find some bones, but every time they tried to build the groundwater, dig for the bones, the groundwater kept filling up. Anyway,
I tell you
Maggie,
what, if there was if I thought there was a body buried in my basement, we'd be digging. Even if there was groundwater, we'd be digging. And if I did find bones, I would report them to the police.
At the end of her life said, no, we were faking it. I was creating the raps.
Maggie said she was faking
Maggie
it.
said she was faking it. But she said, I was creating the raps. These reverberated in concert halls with my knees and my knuckles. You know, now I can crack my knuckles maybe in my knees, but you can't make up.
Them?
They were slaps.
I can pop my jaw. Can you all hear that? I don't know if you can hear it or not. But I could do that in Thick Ghost. I don't know if you can see me doing it, though. I don't know.
Wrappings. And
That's what
then
she said?
and then she recanted it and said, the skeptics, made me do it. I was talked into it. There was so much pressure on me. And in the end of her life, she then recanted her recantation, her retraction of it. But very
I've never heard it from the outside. Yeah, that's my jaw. My jaw does that.
That was the origin of spirituality. People were looking for a new religion. You had Mormonism that had come in the 20s. You had all kinds of Protestantism. That area of New York was called the Burnt Over District because the preachers had all been through there. People who were believing in all kinds of different religions. They were looking for something new, and spirituality and spiritualism gave them that. But I've had people contact me that have passed in dreams. I've never seen a ghost. I've never, experienced that. But I
and to make that clear, what Dan just said was that he dreams about people who dies, and that's evidence of the afterlife. So, I mean,
do believe that consciousness survives after death. I do believe that.
It's an interesting idea. There's no evidence that it doesn't. I think that reincarnation is also a fascinating concept.
All right. So that was him talking about the Fox sisters on Joe Rogan. But I'm not just going to leave it at that. I found, is this it? No, that's the one I was at before. Hold on. This BuzzFeed Unsolved Network. Now, BuzzFeed, we all know BuzzFeed. This is like 5.37 million subscribers. It's BuzzFeed, right? And they have a woo peddling channel. Or a mystery peddling channel, I should say. And they dive into the Fox sisters in this short video here. So we're going to watch this to learn about them. Have you made your way to Concordia? Is that where you go to put on a woo show? Yeah, if she confessed to faking on her... Yeah, the spiritualist people are like, no, she confessed under duress or whatever, under the pressure of her estate because she was poor and wanted to sell her confession, shit like that. But I don't know. She had a falling out with her sister and shit too. So my index finger clicks. My ankles pop too, but I think it'd be odd. I have to do this big swingy movement and rotating movement to make it do it. So it would have to. It'd be pretty obvious that I was doing it. But I guess back then they wore dresses, so you would never see their ankles. You never see their feet. So they could get away with it because their feet were covered and they could do anything they wanted with their feet. All right, let's roll this beautiful bean footage.
The existence of supernatural forces is not a new debate. Skepticism surrounding both the practice and belief of spiritualism has been long contested throughout the course of time. For most, the Fox sisters may not ring a bell. For others, they are commonly regarded as key figures who contributed to the establishment of the spiritualism movement in the mid-1800s. While they did not start or create spiritualism, their role in its history is one worth exploring. Since ancient times, people from many cultures have tried communicating with spirits and the dead.
I would love to have like a crystal ball and stuff. Pacho Villa's buried there. Also, David Ramirez, the Night Stalker, roamed there.
mysterious afterlife and the existence of supernatural beings has baffled and intrigued believers and have been challenged by skeptics for as long as we've been asking the question, what happens after we die? For some, the debate isn't whether or not one believes in mediumship, but if it is an act of rebellion against one's religion to practice or participate in it. The term seance derives from the French word for seat or session. It came into popular use in Europe and America in the mid-1800s, during a time when Victorian-era Gothic literature and art were also popular. Victorian-era Gothic fiction often explored the supernatural and spiritualism, or the belief that the dead can communicate with the living. This time also experienced an emergence of several popular figures who were pushing forth a spiritualist and overall mystic agenda.
I will say that, like, when I'm like watching or reading fiction, I am more apt to suspend my disbelief and enjoy a journey into a world where spiritualism is real than I am to interact with and enjoy a world where like a Abrahamic religion is real. The Catholics do go hard with their mythology. I will give them that. Like there's a lot of good movies based in a Catholic universe. The Exorcist is in a Catholic universe. Great film series. What else? I liked the movie End of Days with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. That's in a Catholic universe. Anything involving like Catholic priests and stuff. The show Evil. I like that show. It takes place in the Catholic universe, but the spiritualist universe, like where Ghostbusters takes place, some of the Conjuring series and stuff like that take place. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now the Conjuring stuff, they do get kind of biblical, but it's the Warrens. What do you expect?
Such as Franz Anton Mesmer. Mesmer was a German physician who believed that all things, including the human body, were controlled by a magnetic fluid that, when imbalanced, could cause physical and mental ailments. His practice involved waving his hands over his patients' bodies, inducing a mesmerized hypnotic state, which he claimed allowed him to manipulate.
So now you know where the word mesmerized came from. Did you know that before?
The magnetic field and help rebalance their health. Some who were put into a mesmeric trance said that they had visions of spirits during their experience. His theories of the universe also gained popularity in the United States. Those who followed in his footsteps and practiced this were known as mesmerists.
I would love to have a crystal ball and a real Ouija board, like a nice Ouija board, not like a stupid Milton Bradley one, but like a nice one, especially a custom handmade one. I used to have a nice wooden one that was, it was a hand carved, or I shouldn't say hand carved. I carved it with a Dremel tool with a routing bit on it, and then glazed it over smooth. I carved it out, and then I stained the inside with a darker, like almost inky black stain inside the letters, and then I glazed it over. And then I made a planchet. I used to work at this welding company, and I made a planchet out of pressed steel. It's really cool, but I don't have it anymore. You put furniture sliders on the bottom of it, though. Maybe that's a project we could do.
Although he lived and practiced long before Mesmer was even born, the philosophies of Swedish mystic Emanuel Swedenborg gained
I want an orgy board too. Yes, I have the Jesus board. You can right underneath that green light. That's what it's like right above. Is my Holy Spirit board where you can actually talk to Jesus himself.
Popularity around the same time. Swedenborg believed in an afterlife of 3 heavens, 3 hells, and one sort of purgatory, which was very similar to Earth. Additionally, Swedenborg claimed that he was able to communicate with spirits existing on every plane. American seer Andrew Jackson Davis, a man the Fox sisters would later cross paths with, also became renowned, in part for combining these 2 philosophies, saying that Swedenborg's spirit had communicated with him during a series of mesmeric trances.
People are all hooked on your orgy board, Ryan. If you want to see me and Ryan play with the orgy board, you got to subscribe to the OnlyFans account, right? And if you subscribe for at the $100 tier, then we'll have Nancy there too. Yeah. I was disappointed with the orgy board. It didn't know fuck. Ah.
It has been said that the Fox family were no strangers to mediumship, as members of Mrs. Fox's family were believed to have the gift of foresight, frequently predicting events that would come to pass. Margaret Smith married John Fox, who was the son of a blacksmith. The couple had 7 children in total. Their firstborn
And I know a lot of people who are legacy psychics, right? That their grandma knew how to or could do this and had these abilities, and then they pass it down to their mom, and they pass it down to them. It usually does go down a maternal line like that, though. Or they'll claim that it does. I don't know if they teach them how. I don't know how it goes down, but the lineage. But people will make that claim. Nancy is holding the wiener planchet. We gotta get, like they have the cookie cutters. They're shaped like wieners. We could actually make a planchet out of a cookie cutter, probably. we need to make the holy orgy board. The holy orgy board. Yeah, next time at one of the gatherings or get-togethers, we can bring that out and put it on the. Put your right cheek here. Put your left tit there. Guys. Oh shit, that's not my mouse. All right.
died in infancy. And before the last 2 children were born, there was a time where Margaret and John separated due to his struggle with alcoholism. John left his family in the 1820s, later returning to his family as a restored man in the 1830s, after having converted to the Methodist Church. It was then that the couple had their last 2 children, Margaret and Catherine, also known as Maggie and Kate, who were 4 years apart. The pair were a part of the trio eventually known as the Fox Sisters. In 1848, the Fox family lived in a home in the New York countryside, where the first known reports of strange happenings surrounding the Fox sisters began. Physical phenomena, from knocks to rappings, caused the Fox house to quickly gain a reputation for odd occurrences, which often took place in the presence of Maggie and Kate. Many, including the sisters...
And that happens a lot with, like, poltergeist activity in general. They'll claim, it always affects these young adolescent girls, right? That's part of the folklore around it, is that, or the spiritualist lore around it, is that because of the energy level of a pubescent girl, for the same reason like that you would sacrifice a virgin to a dragon, right? A young girl of a certain category to or that a sacrifice to a god or whatever was this virginal girl that was that had reached sexual maturity, because that was like ooh for the men writing the books. So that always becomes, or the people not even writing the books, telling the story orally or whatever, that's like the purest thing, right? And so the idea that spirits and things like that would be attracted to a young girl kind of spirals out from there. And but the good thing is you can trap the spirits in mirrors, so glad they're showing us that.
Attributed the noises to spirits. One in particular was that of a peddler who was allegedly murdered on the property. The disturbances eventually brought the Foxes to send Maggie and Kate to Rochester to live with their oldest sister Leah, thinking that it would spare the girls from the supernatural pestering, since most believed that it was the house that was causing the phenomena. Rochester, at the time, was a hot spot of reform and religious activities, and quickly learned about the incidences surrounding the Fox girls. Word of supernatural activities continued to spread, drawing people to the cottage to listen to the strange rappings for themselves. As curiosity grew, a group of Rochester residents proposed...
So, we would not, like, when we played with the Ouija board when we were kids, we would never talk to, like, people. that like people who had died or whatever, and like, oh, let's talk to grandma or anything like that. It was always like whoever we can talk to. And it was usually a demon or claimed to be a demon or something like that. I think it's all idiomotor movement now as I'm an adult and looking back at it. But yeah,
to examine the cellar. Their investigation unearthed some baffling evidence. Found in the soil were strands of hair and something resembling bone fragments, supporting the story of a murdered peddler whose spirit, among others, were suspected to be the cause of the phenomena.
Why did he only leave behind hair and bone fragments and not a whole skeleton and clothes and yeah?
Family friends Amy and Isaac Post took notice of the girls' gifts and invited them over to a gathering at their home to see if they were able to communicate with spirits outside of the Fox's own home. The Posts were community leaders in magnetism, or mesmerism, which are physical phenomena resembling hypnotism. In an attempt to communicate with their deceased daughter, Mr. Post put Leah in a trance where they discovered that she too, like Maggie and Kate, had mediumship abilities. The experiment opened up a new avenue of verbal mediumship, allowing for a wider range of communications to be explored.
Please take this off the screen so I can stop.
Isaac Post wrote,
Thank you.
I suppose
That metronome captured me, and I was like full mantis mode. So the older sister's like, hey, wait a minute. They get special powers? Hell nah. I got special powers too, and I'm going to join them. And she was like, I think 13 years older than them. So she was like well into adulthood by the time that Leo was, by the time that all the rest of this was unfolding. And she kind of took the reins of it. She took like, oh, these are my sisters. I'm going to take them on the road with me, and we're going to make money off this.
I went with as much unbelief as Thomas felt when he was introduced to Jesus after he had ascended, but believed in the sister's abilities after hearing very distinct thumps under the floor and several apparent answers,
or even that somebody kept their dog down there and it chewed on a bone. I mean, people did send their dogs down to the cellar at night to sleep. This was a thing country people did. And the dog would have bones down there to worry on. That's yeah.
as well as by Leah's mediumistic abilities. The Post rented out the largest hall in Rochester, big enough to house 400 people who turned up to listen and witness the noises for themselves in the presence of the system.
Yeah, we played the Ouija board as a kid. What an awesome childhood. Yes, my parents were not religious, but they were open to spiritualism and ghosts and things like that. So we did seances at the dining room table. We did have Ouija boards. Now, some kids weren't allowed to interact with us at school because of it. Like, they couldn't interact with us at all because at the school, my mom was a witch to the people in the town. She still is. I was a witch too. But my sister was not. Kind of weird. So we were really popular at Halloween. We'd have Halloween parties, and like dozens of kids would show up to have us do Ouija board communications and stuff like that for them. I don't imagine all the parents knew that that's what we were doing. We had other stuff that we would do too. We did like scrying, automatic writing. We do all that shit. Just using the idiomotor movements to give answers to gaggles of junior high kids. It was a good time. Technically it was a grift, but we didn't really know we were grifting. We were just going with the flow. But yeah, I mean, we could have easily turned into something like this if we had kept it going. Not easily, but I mean, we could have. It would have been me and my brother. But we did not. We decided enough was enough at a certain point and just stopped doing it. Probably because we wanted to try to but probably girl related. We wanted to chase girls and whatnot. So I only did rituals and a little light pyromancy. I said this on one of the psychic episodes. I did do the spoon bending when I was a kid. We would do, the candle pyromancy. I'd do all that stuff. I was weird. We were weird. I'd say me and my brother was right there with me, but
sisters. To debunk the skeptics, the sisters were escorted by Mrs. Post to a private room, where they were disrobed and examined by those questioning their authenticity. Nothing was found hidden on their bodies. The sisters were clear of any contraptions or props that might have been used to produce the noises. Much to the critics' dismay, this added credibility to the sisters' abilities, thus weakening any accusations of fraud.
what about when they flap their titties together? I can't know if I can make any sound with that or not. I can still do the thing on my neck, though, when I'm not wearing so many necklaces.
Their live seance caught the attention of seer Andrew Jackson Davis, who would later become known as John Baptiste of modern spiritualism. Davis wanted to witness the Fox sisters' gifts for himself, so he invited them to New York City for a demonstration. It was said that Davis wrote in his diary on the same day the Fox sisters channeled in their bedroom for the first time. About daylight this morning.
I was so excited to do this episode, guys. You have no idea. Since it won the poll, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to find the perfect compilation of stuff to play to. And it's turned out okay. Yeah, I like that. I knew I wanted to have Dan Aykroyd being so pro Fox sisters, because I think that's he's the most pro Fox sisters person I can think of. And then a more skeptical outline of it, which is what we're watching here.
A warm breathing passed over my face, and I heard a voice, tender and strong, saying, "Brother, the good work has begun. Behold, a living demonstration is born." His support of the Fox sisters not only added momentum to their success, but for the movement as a whole. Accounts of the Fox sisters' career.
Aw, I hope your puppies are doing well. Usually they sleep outside this time of year, but it's too hot. Yeah. It's pretty hot. Oh, it's not too bad right now. It's 77 degrees out right now. I'm probably going to change my shirt when I get off of here.
And mediumship varies, but most commonly, it is said that in 1849, Maggie, Kate, and Leah Fox were instructed to give public demonstrations of their mediumship to spread word of spiritualism. By 1850, they began performing demonstrations at a parlor in the Barnum Hotel in New York, with invited and paying guests arriving to watch. Sessions were available at 10 a.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. for a fee of $1 per session. When not conducting during these times, the sisters took private meetings in between. Among these guests were prominent figures from the publishing and newspaper industries, such as editor Horace.
Who wants to do the humanoid flap? It's time. Captive Desk said flap, so. I need to put some music to it, though. I need a humanoid flap song.
Greeley, who was convinced by the experience, delivering reports that essentially endorsed the sisters' authenticity, ultimately boosting their fame. Other notable members of New York society who attended the seances included editor and poet William Cullen Bryant and James Fenimore Cooper, author of The Last of the Mohicans, who fully believed in their abilities. Adding to that list of attendees was abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison, with whom an infamous incident occurred during his session with the sisters. Spirits rapped together, spelling out a message of hope.
And they would mix stuff like this, like palm reading is based on folklore, right? Like what this line and this position means. And it's sort of like, it is sort of like tarot cards, right? You can, the reader can throw in their own interpretation of some of the messages via cold reading, which is, it's cold reading is kind of a light interview where you don't, like, the person being interviewed doesn't even realize they're being interviewed. They're just talking about themselves, and you're just like talking about, yourself and your experiences, and you pick up things and you use those to influence what you see when you gaze into your crystal, when you look at the cards, when you look at their palm. But the palm reading thing is, there is physical lines on your hands, right? That and there is like folklore about those lines and what they mean. There's actual physical folklore. So it's not somebody making stuff up off the shooting from the hip. But whether they're how accurate they are, it's like horoscopes. Are Cancers really this way? Are Scorpios really that way? But yeah, I'm calling out you water signs. I'm a water sign. I'm a Cancer too. But I don't think that it really has any bearing, but there is folklore behind it. Whereas what they're building with some of the spiritualist communication options, it's de novo, right? The Ouija board was invented during this time period in order to talk to spirits. A Ouija board isn't something that goes back to ancient times. It was invented during the spiritualist movement. Seances were invented during the spiritual movement, where everybody joins hands around a table and speaks out to the dead. That was invented during this period. So they're mixing old folkloric methods of divination with newfangled spiritualist definitions of divining, and sort of doing this conglomeration. It makes it seem like it's really ancient, but at the time it was new. And you'll see this time and again with other New Age movements, like the neo-pagan movement started in the 1960s, right? They really wanted to cling on to this. We are just a continuation of ancient witchcraft lineages passed down in secret, but they were really just an eclectic assortment of old folk tricks and or folk magic, and mixed together with de novo rituals to their gods and goddesses. Anyway.
Spiritualism will work miracles in the cause of reform. Their public sessions grew into a tour, one that began in major cities in the eastern United States, including Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia. However, it was only Maggie and Kate who went on tour, as Leah continued to hold seances in a private room back in New York. She also reportedly capitalized on some transatlantic work opportunities as well. The increase in their fame and popularity not only resulted in spiritualism becoming a trend, but making it the subject of significant controversy. The Fox sisters' work inspired many who would follow suit in practicing mediumship, such as Victoria Claflin Woodhull, who became a leader of the women's suffrage movement and would also become the very first woman to run for president of the United States in 1872.
Oh, I didn't know that. I should look into her more. Seems like an interesting woman.
The sisters' sessions also led to the formation of plenty of cultists and pseudo-religious crusadings. The Paris Review reports, from the Fox sisters, the phenomenon of spiritualism emerged not as some shadowy occult practice or roadside attraction, but as an exciting way of reconciling the ineffable mysteries of the soul with the complex realities of a modern, rapidly industrializing nation. Even though many skeptics questioned their authenticity, no evidence of explicit fraud was ever found against the Fox sisters. Other famous mediums that would emerge over time include Cora Scott Hatch, Edgar Cayce, and Arthur Ford, to name a few. Further down the
Yeah, most of these folks are people that Dan Aykroyd would cite too, right? Edward Cayce, he talks about. I didn't have a video of him talking about him, but yeah, the spiritualist movement. These are their I don't call them saints, but like these are their people. They're like a Joseph Smith, I guess, would be the best thing to compare them to of the spiritualist movement. These are the people that got the ground going.
The line, Harry Houdini would become one of the fiercest opponents of fake seances, and was known to crusade against the mediums he believed to be inauthentic. For years, Houdini sought out a real medium in an attempt to reach his deceased mother.
And here is our guy who paved the way for people like James Randi and Matt Dillahunty and debunking these scoundrels.
His own death promised his wife he would contact her through a medium. The Fox sisters and their world of metaphysical adventure also fascinated and possibly made believe.
Woodhull only popped back into common knowledge again when Hillary ran to refute her claim of being the first female candidate for president. Yeah, Hillary lies a lot, but like, she doesn't lie as much as Donald Trump, But people were like, we don't like Hillary because she lies. And you like Donald Trump because he tells it like it is. When Donald Trump lies and Hillary lies, you just think that Donald Trump lied to you better. You like the way he lied to you. You like the way it made you feel better than the way she lied to you.
Believers out of several more notable figures, such as the chemist Sir William Crookes, who would pioneer developments in photography and electricity, and discovered the element thallium. John Logie Baird, who developed television. Alexander Graham Bell and Guglielmo Marconi, inventors of the telephone and radio.
Yeah. Just because a lot of people are into spiritualism, I mean, Sir Isaac Newton was a alchemist, so yeah. Why do they overlook his lies? Because he's a professional salesman. He's a professional grifter. He's a professional. His profession is making any kind of deal sound good and selling you whatever. I think people also forgot that Elizabeth Dole ran for president in 2000. I didn't remember that. Huh.
While touring in 1852, Maggie met explorer Elisha Kent Kane, who was an attendee of one of their seances. Although Elisha himself was a skeptic, he was swept away by Maggie's charm. He was 13 years her senior, and while it seemed that Maggie was initially not interested in a man so much older than her, they eventually were married in a private ceremony. In their short time together, Elisha
grooming
continuously wished to remove Maggie from the spiritualist world and properly educate her, to which Maggie finally obliged, leaving spiritualism and the seances behind her. Maggie became a widow just 5 years later and was baptized into the Roman Catholic Church in August 1858, something her late husband always wanted for her.
So she found Jesus.
She renounced spiritualism from that point on. It's noted that Kate and their parents were by her side during the baptism. Elisha's family had disapproved of his marriage to Maggie, and upon his death refused to acknowledge her status as his wife or widow, even denying her any claim to his estate.
That's bullshit. She had rightful claim to that estate if she had married him. She put up with this weird old man advances. She at least...
She later published Elisha's love letter to her in a book titled The Love Life of Dr. Kane. Unfortunately, it came nearly 10 years after Elisha's death, and did poorly. Seeking comfort in a troubling time, Maggie turned to alcohol, eventually spiraling into poverty. Also in 1858, Leah ceased offering her services for money after marrying her third husband, a wealthy businessman and spiritualist, Daniel Uphill. As for Kate, she would continue to develop her skills as a medium, coming up with incredible ways to convey messages, including writing and speaking 2 different messages at the same time.
So really, yeah, it comes down to between Kate and Maggie about this, so things are about to unravel.
She traveled to England to capitalize on the growing interest in spiritualism. In 1872, while in London, she met a fellow spiritualist and lawyer named Henry Diedrich Jenkin, whom she married. Their marriage lasted just short of a decade, before Kate would, too, become a widow.
I think these Fox sisters might be killing their husbands. It was a very popular thing to do back then. Not really popular, but there were methods to dispose of a abusive or unwanted husband. To become a widow. But they also seemed like these girls were all about marrying older men.
The death of her husband in 1881 only made matters worse for Kate. The pressure to perform became too much for her, and she, like Maggie, turned to alcohol for comfort. As Kate's life also spiraled, Leah added insult to injury by accusing Kate of being unfit to care for her own children, resulting in them being taken away from her. The sisters' relationship was compromised by their personal struggles, having...
Yeah, and that fucked, like, on your own siblings. I guess if your siblings not taking care of their kids, though, you got to do what you got to do. But, damn.
Seemingly reached some kind of wit's end. Maggie was now in opposition of the very thing that made the Fox sisters. On May 27, 1888, Maggie Fox told the New York Herald, "Spiritism is a curse. No matter what form Spiritism presents itself, it is, was, and always will be a curse and a trap for all who engage with it." and on October 21st, 1888, she would take it a step further, going on stage at New York's Academy of Music to expose the sisters herself. Leading up to this, Maggie knew nothing of the fight between Leah and Kate, having learned about it through the New York Herald. Before a crowd filled with spiritualists, she began to tell them how she and her sisters had tricked the public into believing the fraud of spiritualism. At her side was Kate, validating her every statement. She would go on to speak of their experience with the fraud.
So we got, between Leah and Kate and Maggie is where things come. Leah's the older sister.
Claiming, "I repented it in my maturity. I have lived through years of silence, through intimidation, scorn, and bitter adversity, concealing as best I might the consciousness of my guilt. Now, thanks to God and my awakened conscience, I am at last able to reveal the fatal truth, the exact truth of this hideous fraud which has withered so many hearts and blighted so many hopeful lives. I am here tonight as one of the founders of spiritualism, to denounce it as an absolute falsehood from beginning to end, as the flimsiest of superstitions, the most wicked blasphemy known to the world."
Yeah, she's coming at this from a very, very religious place, because again, she found Jesus, so that'll happen. Actually, I know a lot of witchy Christian people, like Christian witches. It's kind of weird, but yeah.
Maggie claimed that the whole act started as a way to scare their mother, who was superstitious, and proceeded to demonstrate how they produced the wrappings that enthralled so many people. She removed her right shoe and placed her foot on a short wooden stool. The room grew silent as the crowd paid close attention. Moments later, the sound of wrappings could be heard. 3 physicians who observed her during the demonstration came on stage to confirm that the sound had indeed been produced by the first joint of her big toe.
Behold, parlor tricks.
The revelation sprung the pair into an expose tour, showing their tricks around the country. However, their best days were behind them, as the success fell short to that of their earlier days. Despite Maggie's confession, many in the spiritualism world did not give it much value. Due to her diminished mental state, alcoholism, and their steadfast belief in spiritualism, they easily dismissed her claims that the wrappings were false, instead choosing to believe that the sisters themselves were frauds. Since Maggie was paid $1,500 for her confession, some claimed that poverty was the motivation behind her action. It was possible she'd simply done it for the money, and not because she believed what she was saying. However, some have stated that Maggie's true motivation for revealing their secrets was to get back at their sister Leah. Maggie claimed that Leah exploited her and Kate when they were young and impressionable for her own financial gain and fame. Due to Maggie's public criticism of Kate's alcoholism, some blamed her for Kate losing custody of her children. Mediums and seances have long been questioned for authenticity.
So, I mean, Leah was still making money off this, I guess. So she was kind of the mastermind of monetizing the grift, right, between the sisters. Like her parents believed wholehearted all the way to their end that this was all real.
And many were found to be fraudulent. But in a strange twist, and perhaps in support of those who could not accept the sisters' confession, they would retract the confessions just a year later. Some in the spiritualist community were delighted, while others still looked down upon them. Maggie and Kate continued taking what work they could find within spiritualism. And in 1893, the infamous sisters transitioned to the other side, dying just months apart from each other. The duo of the trio lived their final days impoverished, and it was said that Maggie and Leah never patched things up.
Maybe they patched things up in the afterlife.
So what happens when we die? And can the dead really communicate with the living? Truth is, the answers to those questions will likely always remain.
I hope not. If there's an afterlife where I have to do shit, I'm going to be so pissed. I just want to just cease. Can I just cease? When it's over, when it's my time, do I have to hang around and do shit? Like, to come do tricks for people? Or go sit in heaven and worship a god? Or whatever anybody's version of the afterlife is? Or be reborn and have to do all this shit over again? Can I avoid all of those traps and just be chill? Like, gone? Just toss me into the void. Blackness. No consciousness. like I was before I was born. Can you return me to that state, please? Thank you. I didn't ask for this. I don't want to be a being again. This was enough for me. Thank you. I'd like to cancel my subscription to reincarnation.
Unsolved.
Unless I can be a frog. I might be a frog. I'm going to be a marmoset. If I have to be a human again, though, no. If I have to be a human again, no. But if I can be like an animal, or a plant, or a fungus, or something like that. Something where I don't have to worry about taxes. All right. So, I mean, that was presented by BuzzFeed Unsolved, so take from it what you will. So we had, Dan Aykroyd on Joe Rogan. Then we had just gassing up the Fox sisters. And then we have the whole story of the Fox sisters and their falling out and their rise to power, their falling out, everything that and everything in between. So I don't know. I like doing these episodes on like a little expose on different people and that were involved in Woo. The psychic spy episode like really leaned into like Uri Geller, for instance, and his shenanigans. So if you like this stuff, let me know. This is one of the things I really enjoy doing on Weekend Weird is mediums and psychics and all that stuff. So I mean, I do like doing the lost civilizations and things, but I've been really getting into this lately, and I really enjoyed covering it and kind of cracking it open and like trying to perform the stuff myself if I can figure it out. I don't have a poppable toe, but I have a poppable jaw. My jaw would probably be a little more obvious though, unless I was like talking and it was happening. I don't know, because there's a little wiggle to my face, like a muscle twitch. Anyway, yeah, that was the Fox sisters on This Week in Weird. What do you think about the Fox sisters? Do you think they were really communicating with spirits? Do you think it was all a big grift? Let me know in the comments down below, and please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time.